Mr. Ordonez. This is how you write my name, in case you're wondering. And I'm going to be teaching this geometry class, and I'm going to do it all online. This is the first year that we're doing this, so hopefully everything goes well. You could always email me or reach out to me through phone number as well, if you have any questions or anything at all. So let's go ahead and get started. This is lesson 1. We're going to talk about parallelograms. And yeah, let's dive into it. Alright, so in here I have a parallelogram. And what a parallelogram is that it's formed by parallel lines. So this is parallel. Those two lines are parallel. Okay? And this line is parallel to this line right here. Okay? So that means, well, it means a lot of things. I'm gonna draw everything out for you here, so you can see what properties are gonna follow with this. And of course, my lines are not very nicely drawn, but you get the point. Alright, so some properties that we know about parallel lines. Okay, we know that this angle is congruent to this angle, okay, because of parallel lines. And it's it makes sense logically. So let's just call this one 1 and then a 1 right there. Okay, those two are congruent. Well, if this is congruent to that, then this is also congruent there. So that's congruent as well. So those are all the same, and same with this one here. Those are all parallel. Now this, okay, is gonna be congruent to this right here. Okay, so if we call it this 2 and this 2. I want you to notice something in here that is very important that you have to realize. What I want you to realize is that angle 1 plus angle 2, because they are called, well, angle 2 and angle 1 are supplementary angles, that means that they add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that angle 1 plus angle 2 is going to give you 180 degrees. And guess what? If you add all the angles inside that parallelogram, okay, so if you add 1 plus angle 2, and then of course you're going to multiply that by 2 because you have 2 of those each, you're going to get 360 degrees. So the sum, in a way, the sum of all the angles, let's write it this way, the sum of all the angles is 360 degrees. Okay, so those are fun stuff that we should know about. This plus this should add up to 180, but if you add all the angles, it's going to add up to 360 degrees. Why do we need that? Well, it's going to help us solve some problems that we're going to have in here. For example, if I have this problem here, okay, I already said that this angle plus this angle, that better add up to, okay, it's going to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so how do I use that? Well, in this problem, what they're asking us to do is to solve for x. Alright, so let's go ahead and solve for x using that information that I have. For example, I know that 85, that is my first angle, plus 24x minus 1. When I add those two angles, that's gonna add up to 180 degrees, because that's one of the properties of parallelograms. Now let's go ahead and solve for x. First of all, I'm gonna combine those two. We have 24x, 85 minus 1 is gonna be 84. Now sometimes I'm not gonna do the algebra for you. I'm gonna ask you to do it on your own, because what we wanna focus on, we wanna learn how to set up the problem. Okay, after you learn how to set up the problem, the algebra should be a lot easier. And I don't want to focus so much on the algebra because you already went through algebra. Okay, I'm going to subtract 84 on both sides here. So we have 180, and it's okay, I'm using my calculator too because I don't want to think too hard. It's 96, and then that 96, I'm going to divide it by 24. And what I get for x is 4. Okay, so that's how we solve those type of problems there. All right, let's go to number 2 right here. This right here and this right here, let's talk about that. Remember what I show you here? You see, angles that are opposite to each other, 2 and 2, they're equal to each other, they're congruent. Notice that this one and this one, those are also congruent. Okay, this angle and this angle is congruent. This one and this one is congruent. What do I mean by congruent? Well, if this is 80, this is also going to be 80. If it's 70, it's also going to be 70. So congruent just means that they're equal to each other. So in this problem here, I know that this angle and this angle are congruent. So how do I set up the problem? Well, I set it up this way. I'm going to say that 40x minus 2 better equal 38x plus 4. All right, so now I'm going to solve for x. I'm going to subtract 38x on both sides. And since I want to skip some steps here, I want to add 2 on both sides. Okay, here's what's going to happen. This and this is going to cancel. 40 minus 38. We're going to get 2x on this side. Of course, this is going to cancel as well. 4 plus 2 is 6. When you divide by 2 on both sides, you're going to get 3 as your final answer. So there we have it. We have two types of problems. In one of the problems, we have to, those two, when you add it together, it add up to 180. On the second problem, they were congruent to each other, and you have to be able to tell the difference. Okay, on this one here, this angle and this angle, they add up to 180. Okay, so we know that 91 plus 14x plus 5, that better add up to 180. Okay, let's do the math really quick here. We got 14x, 91 plus 5 is going to be 96. Okay, I'm going to skip some steps in here. I'm going to subtract 180 minus 96, that's 84, divided by 14. I get that x is equal to 21. Now, I did skip some steps here and here because I'm assuming that you already know how to solve for x there. Hopefully you do. Okay, what I did was subtract 96 on both sides, and then I divided by 14 on both sides. All right, so we got that there. This one here, we know that this and this, that better add up to 180 as well. All right, so that's gonna add up to 180. We're gonna combine like terms in here. For example, this one and this one here, that's gonna be 18x, and then the negative 5 and the 5 are gonna cancel each other. Okay, so you're gonna get x is equal to 10. But the problems actually go pretty fast when you start doing them. All right, let's move on. All right, some of the conditions for parallelograms, I forgot to tell you this one, but this one is pretty logically, it makes sense. One of the conditions is that this is congruent to that right there. And we also have, of course, that this is congruent to that. Okay, that's another something that we should know about. So if those two are congruent to each other, we're gonna set up an equation like this. 9x plus 1 is equal to, because they're congruent to each other, is equal to 10. Okay, so this one goes here, and that one there, and those two are equal to each other because those two sides are congruent to each other. If you want to write it, you will write it like this. Segment HA is congruent to, if I started with H, I gotta start with G now. GF. Okay, those two are congruent to each other. Now I'm going to go ahead and solve. Subtract 1 on both sides, you get 9. X is equal to 1 as your final answer. Okay, let's go ahead and go to problem 6. At any time during the video, if you did not understand something, what I would recommend is that you go back to the video, you go back a little bit. You can fast forward as well. If you feel like this is too easy, you can fast forward as well. If you feel like it's too difficult, you can always go back and rewatch the video or pause. This one is congruent to that. So we have x plus 7 is equal to 15. Subtract 7 on both sides and you get 8. As easy as that, guys. Alright, let's keep going with parallelograms. This one, I'm just gonna set it up for you because you can kind of see what the idea is. This one, the way I will set it up is 4x minus 4 is equal to 20. This one, the way I set it up is x plus 7 is equal to 17. Alright, let's keep going. You guys can solve that on your own. But this one, of course, is going to be 4 for the answer. And this one, 10 for the answer. Those were easy. Alright, let's talk about this right here. This is where it gets a little bit more challenging. Whenever you have a parallelogram, and let's talk about that as well. I'm gonna draw a parallelogram, then I do my best to draw one. Okay, if you have diagonals, and this is a diagonal. Okay, now let's draw another diagonal. Okay, what's gonna happen here is that this section from here to there is gonna be congruent to that right there, and this is going to be congruent to that. Okay, so let's see if we can use that in our advantage. So in here they're saying that EN is equal to 11. So EN is right there. Let me do another color here. EN is 11. LN, okay, so LN is the whole thing from here all the way to there. So the whole thing is 22x. All right. So if this is 11, guys, we know because I just told you that this is congruent to that right there. That means that those two are also congruent. Okay, so if this is 11, this will also be 11. Okay, All right, so we know that the whole thing, ln, is 22x. Okay, so let me actually draw it over here so you can see it a little bit better. This is what's happening. We have 11 and 11, and from here to there is 22x. Well, it makes sense that if those two are 11, then the whole thing is 22. Okay, why? Because 11 plus 11 is 22. That makes sense logically. And that's how geometry is. You have to see the figure, you have to see the problem, and it has to make sense logically. That means that 22x is equal to 22. Okay, so that means that x better equal 1. As simple as that, guys. Let's see if we can do the next one here. We have ds is 12. We have sf, so we have from here to there is 12. And then we have sf. We have sf, that's going to be 2x minus 12. I already said, guys, that this is congruent to that right there. So the way we set up the problem is very simple. We say that 2x minus 12 is equal to 12. And then we go ahead and solve the problem. We add 12 on both sides. We get 24, and then x is equal to 12. Okay, as simple as that. You have to be able to draw some pictures in order for this to work out. If you don't draw the pictures, then it's going to be a little bit more challenging to do geometry. And as you do the homework, I expect that you guys use pictures. All right, so this one here, let's take a look at it. We have wy. So wy is the whole thing from there to there. And that's 36. And then we have qy. Qy is from here to there. And that right there is 19x minus 1. Now, if that's 19x minus 1, this right here is also 19x minus 1. So here's what I'm going to do. Instead of saying 19x minus 1 plus 19x minus 1, what you could do is multiply that by 2, because you have 2 of those. So 19x minus 1 times 2, because you have 2 of them, 1 and 2, is going to equal to the whole thing, which is 36. We multiply, I'm going to distribute. We're going to get 38x minus 2 is equal to 36. When I add 2 on both sides, you're going to notice you're going to get 38 as well. X is equal to 1. Now, if you got confused about that too, let's just simplify. If you have 19x minus 1 plus, okay, so here's that side right there. This is this right here. Plus 19x minus 1. You're going to notice that it's the same thing. It's equal to 36. You should get the same answer. 19x plus 19x is 38x. And then negative 1 plus negative 1 is negative 2. You guys see that you get the same thing here? Okay, so I'm not gonna finish the problem. We're gonna get the same answer there. Okay, that's what that 2 means. All right, let's keep going. Number 12, we have RL from there to there. It's 6, and then LT from there to there. That's x minus 2. We know by the conditions that this is congruent to that right there. So that means that x minus 2 is equal to 6. Add 2 on both sides, and you get x is equal to 8. All right, let's keep going, guys. Same idea here. We have DG, from there to there, it's 9. And then GB, from there to there, that's X. Okay, that was way too easy. This is congruent to that. That means that X is equal to 9. Okay, that was easy. This is a harder one. Hopefully this one is a little bit challenging. All right, let's see this one here. RG is equal to X plus 12. So from there to there, this is X plus 12. And then we have GT, so we got 3X minus 2. Of course, guys, this is congruent to that, and we already done this. This is how we set it up. Okay, let's solve for X. You're gonna see that you get 2X is equal to 14, X is equal to 7. What I did there was I subtract X on both sides, and then I added 2 on both sides. Like I said, I'm not gonna go do so much of the algebra because I expect that you guys know how to do that already. All right, let's do one problem like this one here. In this one, they're asking you to find BL. Okay, so you have to be careful when you're doing these problems, especially when you do the quiz. You have to see what they're asking you. If they're asking you for X, then you give me X. But if they're asking you for the segment or the segment length, then you gotta give me that. All right. So we have BL. BL is right here from that point to that point right there. That's 1 plus 8x. And then we have LT. That's this right here, and that's going to be 10x minus 1. We already know that this is congruent to that right there. So that means that I'm going to set those two equal to each other. So 10x minus 1 is going to equal 1 plus 8x. Okay, you're going to solve for x as you normally did. I'm going to, let's see, I could subtract 8 on both sides and I'll get 2x. And then I'll add 1 on both sides and I'll get 2. That means x is 1. Of course, that's not the answer. What you're looking for is BL. Well, BL, they're saying that BL is 1 plus 8x. So all you have to do to find BL is replace that x with the value of x. So I'm gonna replace that x with a 1. So 8 times 1, well, that's just gonna be 8. And then the final answer, BL, that segment is 9. Okay? Alright, I'm gonna actually move on to the next one here. Hopefully this gets a little bit more difficult. Let's do this one here. We have BF is equal to 13 plus x. So the whole thing, so from here to there, all of that. Okay, so let's see, actually I'm wrong. It's BF. I don't know why I was looking at it incorrectly. Okay, so BF from there to there, that's going to be 13 plus x. And then let's go ahead and take a look at fx. All right. If you're taking notes, what I would recommend as well is you can pause the video so you can take the notes a little bit slower, because I do realize, you have to do the diagram and all of that, and then that makes it a little bit difficult. I already have it all written down, so it's easy for me, but of course you don't have any of this written down. All right, so we have fx is 2x plus 4. You will realize that this is congruent to that. So we have 13 plus x is equal to 2x plus 4. Before, what I will do during I will usually have you guys do this by your own, but I guess we can't do that right now. So I subtract x on both sides, I subtract 4 on both sides, you get 9. That's not your final answer. You're looking for BF here, and we already know that BF is 13 plus x. Well, I'm gonna replace that x with the 9. So 13 plus 9, of course, that's gonna be 22. All right, let's move on to the next problems. All right, let's talk about this ones here. All right, so there are a couple things that you gotta know. We know that this, okay, all of that, and that's kind of hard to see, but all of that, that has to, this plus that, we seen it before. Remember, when you have a parallelogram, this plus this, that has to add up to 180. Okay, so that's exactly what's going to happen here. Those two, this angle here, this one, plus this whole angle has to add up to 180. Now, they're asking you to find UBW. You have to be careful with that. Okay, we'll find that in a little bit, but we first have to figure out what x is. All right, so let's get it done. First of all, we have 9x minus 5 plus, I'm gonna do this angle now, 80 plus 6x. We already know that that has to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, we're gonna solve for x. We have 9x plus 6x. That, of course, is gonna be 15x. Negative 5 plus 80, that's going to be 75. Subtract 75 on both sides, that's gonna give you 105. When you divide by 15 on both sides, what you're gonna get is let's see if I can remember, 7 actually. So you're gonna get 7. That is not your answer, guys. That is not your answer, because they're asking you to find the measurement of that angle, UBW. So what is UBW? Well, UBW is right there. We start with U, B, and then W. So they're asking you to find this angle right here. So 80 plus, well, this 6x right here. Okay, what is that? Well, 6x, instead of x, I'm gonna write the 7. 6 times 7. Okay, so what is 6 times 7? Well, we know that that's 42. So that means that this angle here, this right here, that's 42. Okay, well, 42 plus 80, that's going to be 122 for the whole thing. So from there to there, that's going to be 122. So the measurement, this is how we want to write it, of UBW is equal to 122. Now on the quiz, it's going to ask you for that angle, and you're just going to write that number right there, 122. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and do a couple more problems. take a look at this one here. See if you can visualize it there. They're asking us to find BUX. That's interesting. But in order for us to do that, we have to be able to figure out what X is. Well, we already know that this guy plus this right here, okay, let's call this one angle red and angle purple. Okay, those two have to add up to 180 degrees. That is how we're going to set up the problem. So 6x plus 14 plus 8x plus 7 plus 47, that better add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so we have 6x plus 8x. Okay, so 6 plus 8, that's going to be 14x. And then we're going to add this 14 plus this 7 plus this 47. 14 plus 7 plus 47, that's going to be 68 actually. Let's subtract 180 minus 68. It's 112. And then divide that by 14 and you get x is equal to 8. All right, so you're probably wondering, hey, but how is that going to help me figure out what B U X is? Well, this is what you have to realize. This is what you have to realize. That this angle right here is congruent to this one right here. Okay, those were one of the theorems or one of the properties that we saw previously. So if we're able to figure out what this angle is, then we can figure out what this one is. All right, awesome. So let's go ahead and figure out what this is right here. Well, we know that x is equal to 8. So we plug in 8 times 8 there, plus 7, okay? 8 times 8 is 64, plus 7, that's going to be 71. Okay? Now we just found this angle from here to there. That's 71. The whole thing, which will be the red part, from here to there, we have to add 71 plus 47. And that will be 118. So if that's 118, then this right here is also 118. So the measurement of BUX is equal to 118. And that's how you do that problem. Okay, so you have to use what we call logic in here. It's important. All right. Let's see if we can do this one here. Take a look at that one first. If you can, go ahead and pause the video now and try to see if you can solve it by your own. All right, so hopefully you paused that video. And now I'm just going to show you how I would do it. So we have this angle here and this right here, that has to add up to 180 degrees. So the way I set it up is I'm going to say 15x plus 14 plus that 22 that you see in there plus 2x plus 8, all of that has to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, I'm going to combine like terms. We have this 15x plus this 2x, it's going to be 17x. And then I have all those extra numbers there that I'm going to add up together. 22 plus 8 is 30, plus 14 is 44. Now I'm gonna go ahead and subtract 180 from 44. That's gonna be 136, which I'm going to divide by 17, and that's gonna give me 8. But of course, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this right here, the measurement of y, x, w. So y, x, and the w is right there. So I'm looking for this whole thing right here. Well, I already know that this is 22. I have to plug in 2 times 8 there. 2 times 8 plus 8 there. 2 times 8 is 60, plus 8 is going to be 24. Okay, so this little portion right here is 24 plus 22. So 24 plus 22 is going to be 46. All right, and that is my final answer. All right, let's take a look, see if I find... Let's see, those are very similar. Let's take a look at this ones here. These ones are going to be very similar as well. We already know that this and this, you know, those two have to add up to 180. Same idea, guys, same idea. So we have 7x plus 8 plus 4 plus 21x, that has to add up to 180. Okay, by this point you should be pretty good at the algebra. You have a plus 4 is 12, and then 180 minus 12 is 68. That's not right. $168, I'm sorry. Divided by 28, x is 6. Now they're asking you to find angle E. So angle E is this angle that you see right there. Okay, how do I find that? Well, it's very simple. We know, again, that this angle is congruent to this angle right here. We also know that this one is congruent to that one right there. Okay, so if I'm able to figure out what this is, then automatically I have already figured out what E is. So we know that angle C right there is 4 plus 21x. Well, we already found x. So I'm going to replace that x with a 6. And here's what I'm going to get. 21 times 6 is going to be 126 plus 4 is going to be 130. So that means that the measurement of angle E is 130 as well. Okay, as simple as that, guys. Let's do one more problem and then we are done with this video. Let's do this one here. You have to find the measurement of angle S. Well, this and this, we already know that those two are congruent. So 1 plus 84x, that better equal 86x minus 1. Subtract 84 on both sides and you get 2x on this side, and add 1 on both sides, you get 2 on this side. That means that x is equal to 1. Okay, so we're not quite done here. How am I going to be able to figure out what S is? This right here. How is that going to help me? Well, very simple. let's figure out what this is first. Well, if you plug in a 1 in there, what you're gonna get is 84 plus 1 is gonna be 85. We know that this angle, the purple, plus this right here, that has to add up to 180 degrees. So this plus that, when I add them together, I get 180. Okay, so how's that gonna help me? Well, if those two add up to 180, I know that the measurement of angle S plus 85, that has to add up to 180 degrees. So all I have to do really, not make this too complicated, I just have to subtract 180 minus 85, and that gives me the answer, which is 95. Okay, so if this was 85, and those two add up to 180, to figure that one out, all I do is subtract 180 minus 85, and that gives me the 95 that I'm looking for. Okay? And this one is very similar, so we're not gonna go over that one. All right, very good. Very good, guys. So yeah, with that, that's all we have for parallelograms. There's gonna be a lot of problems related to that you're gonna be solving on IXL, and then you're gonna be doing homework on that as well. And then the quiz is gonna be all related to this as well. All right? Good luck on the quiz and good luck on the homework, guys. I'll see you guys on the next video.